we have one call parked, or now we are showing to you that agent 2 has parked a call. We will receive another call, and agent 1 will park it. So now we have multiple calls parked. One is by agent 1, and other is by agent 2. So you can see parked by Suhail and Sadiq with parking reason. Here, and agent can filters between mine and all. He can see only into his parked calls, and also can look into calls
That
parked
I parked and then
others.
all that are parked in the
Yes,
queue and the reason for the
yes,
parking. I like that you could,
Sorry, can
no,
I just ask a quick question?
sure.
How do you set it up so that agents can see um, these other calls? I mean, is it within a team? Is it that the same gadget within their desktop? Just trying to understand how you set it up that the agents that you want to have this gadget have it and are able to see each other's calls.
yes.
Does
Actually,
that
it
question
works on
make
top.
sense?
Yes, yes, I get you. I get you completely.
For
Yes,
call.
actually, it works on top of Teams. An agent can see all the calls parked by agents of his team. He cannot see by all the agents of contact center, but only by agents of his team. So we configured this agent on Teams basis. So these agents are from same team, or so they can see calls parked by their own team members.
So not by queue or agent skill group, you actually set up a team of agents that
Yes,
are associated to this particular grouping. And if I had
yes,
multiple, I could do multiple teams.
yes, yes, exactly.
Okay. So it's a separate grouping that you set up and configure.
Yes, yes, you are.
We could set up a different
So
routing, but this is what we just do out of the box with just you have those teams within the contact center, and then we use that as grouping. But if you want to have something different also in the UI, that could be adapted.
Okay.
and agent, right now we showed you that agent is receiving a call when he's in ready state and parking the calls. Agent can also receive call when he is in not ready state. So here we are changing the agent status to not ready. So he can retrieve a call when he is not ready. So automatically he will be changed first into reserve, then talking state. So he will not receive another call, but he has retrieved a call and he can talk with it very customer.
So you could be a not ready, and instead of automatically getting the next call in the queue, you could go in and retrieve a park call. That's the
Yes,
concept here. If there's
yes,
a wrap up time or something like that before the next call is presented. Perfect. Okay.
yes. Similarly, you can retrieve a call which is in a conference mode. There are some limitations for consult call. If you are in a consult call, then you cannot park it. If you are in a conference call, you can park it. That call will be in your parking gadget, but other participant will continue it. If, for example, in a conference call, we have 3 participants, an agent has parked it, then for that very agent, that call will be considered as a parked call, but remaining 2 participants will remain in the call and they can continue.
Say that. So let me clarify that. So if I conference something, right, you could leave two people in the conference, and I could have still parked the call, so I could then rejoin if I wanted to that call that had two parties in it.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. And similarly, if you have some VIP call, then you can retrieve that call in a priority queue. We can provide you an additional script. So we will provide you an identifier. For example, you are in a talking state with a customer. You will receive a notification in a Finesse that there is a call in a priority queue. So you can park a call with an active call, and you can receive a priority queue call, which has a higher priority for you. So in this way, you can give high priority to VIP calls.
Hang on 1 second for us. Dylan seems to have lost audio.
Okay, sure.
Or have him dial in. He's our critical component here. He's the applications consultant who.
Hello.
There he is.
Hey,
Don't know what's going on here, but I joined audio, so.
Okay, so should we recap it from the start? We can continue it from.
I think Dylan asked the one question about the how this works from the team's perspective, right? You heard that response, or did you hear the response, Dylan, around the team? It's a separate team that's created,
Yeah, yep,
not based
yep,
on skill
yep. No,
group.
that was good. Yeah, no, I was asking for clarification. I thought I heard that even though they're not ready, calls could still break through. I don't know if I heard that correctly or
Not
not.
breakthrough. Well, so the two things. In a not ready state, you can go and retrieve a part call, right? So that you could be
Yep.
at not ready and not receive a new call because you're ready, right? And retrieve a part call because hey, it's more critical. Or the second use case you just mentioned, if there's a priority queue, right? So above the queue where you've got part calls and a call comes in, that can be presented to you.
Okay. Okay. Yep, that's good.
Okay,
Did I
so
clarify that right, Hassan? Yes, no, maybe. He's muted. Definitely.
Sorry, can you please come again?
I just clarified some of the statements that you had made while Dylan had dropped off. I just wanted to
okay,
make sure we were
you
correct.
are you are correct. You are 100% correct. You explained it
Perfect. Thank you.
so. Along with this, we have out of the box two reports. One is a summary report, agent wise daily summary report, and another one is a detailed report. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, so this is the important part, I think, is how the reporting works, right? Because there's native reports within PCCE, and then there are reports that this sounds like this creates separate reports. Are they any way tied together? But we'll let you respond to it. And then Dylan, I'm sure you'll have a couple questions.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. So we have two reports. One is consolidated report for agents. In this, we have parameters for date, agent name, total parked, total unparked, total parked unparked time, total call duration, and total wrap-up time. Then we have a detailed report. In detailed report, we have parameters like date, caller number, parked since, parked reason, parked by, parked skill, parked talk time, parked duration, parked wrap-up time, parked wrap-up, unparked status code, unparked by, unparked skill, unparked talk time, unparked duration, and unparked wrap-up time. So these are parameters for these two reports. For out of the box, we provide these two reports. If you have some other reporting requirements, then we can look into it and can provide as a custom reports.
So these are provided as CYC reports.
Are they CUIC reports? Is that what I heard you say?
Correct, yeah.
So this all flows into the CUIC engine database, and you pull reports out of it. So it adds tables to the database for this. Go ahead,
That's
Dylan.
correct, right, Junaid?
I didn't hear you.
The
Please come again.
reports are CYC reports, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And it
That's
just we
good.
just generate additional tables in CYC.
Yes.
Yeah. Correct. So it's for the users, it's they're just using the tools that they are used to. They just see additional reports that then they can then view them or aggregate them in a different way if they wish.
Okay. Dylan, I know you understand the reporting requirements for this use case.
Yeah, actually, I got to be honest with you. I'm still trying to get. I got kicked out of when I was on Firefox. I'm trying to get connected via Google now, so I can't see what you're looking at necessarily. What I do know is that from a reporting perspective, I mean, they look at it your basic contact center metrics when it comes to calls, right? At the agent, even the type of call. So, calls offered, calls abandoned, calls wait time, and then from the agent perspective, stuff like talk time, hold time. In this case, we would be do wrap time. So it's without looking at it right now, I mean, it comes down to, with all these different reports, are they going to have to tie things together and understand those metrics, or is it pretty clear as to how the calls are handling? Even if, when you put on a call park as an example, how does that show up on a report? Is that considered part of the wait time? Is that considered hold time?
So we typically provide you detailed formulas for the report, so you would understand how the fields are calculated for each one of those reports. And we, as we mentioned, we provide out of the box 2 reports: a detailed report and then an agent-wise report. And those are the ones that are just out of the box, right? If you would like to aggregate or group them in a different way or form, we could do that. And the way how they would be delivered are always with Cisco CYC eventually. And so you would just need to say, okay, I would like to see these fields aggregated in that way. Ideally, give us a formula, and we would then provide exactly that CYC report for the parked calls.
Is there any chance we could look at those reports as they are?
They're listed on expert. If you cannot see the screen, it's under expertflow.com /call-parking. And at the bottom of that webpage, you will find 2 reports.
Okay.
Right. Let me see if I can ask Dylan, maybe you can clarify this, right? They have requirements for, I believe it's how many calls and calls, wait time, etc. So within the queue, when something gets queued, you establish those. How long do they wait in queue before they're answered, right? But if they're answered and then they're parked, how do those two tie together, or are they 2 separate metrics? And maybe we need to tie them together, right? So I queued them for 2 minutes, an agent answered, and ideally it's not going to be that long. The purpose of park is to answer calls immediately and then park them based on priority, right? So, but if I queued for 5 minutes, let's just say, and I then parked them for 2 minutes, would be the wait time or the queuing time in theory be 7 minutes? Or would it be 5 minutes? And is that a requirement, Dylan? And what are the other legal requirements that we're trying to solve with this from a reporting perspective?
Yeah. So I guess most things would be just native PCCE or CCX reports that you might have with queuing times and all of that, right? So that would not change in any way. It's just we're just creating additional special reports for call parking. Again, if you would like to aggregate them or group them in another way related to the original call or how many and so on, then these reports could be generated. It's just basically reporting work that we would need to do.
This plus this.
Exactly, yeah. And you would just need to give us with the formulas how you would like the fields to be aggregated. The ones that we saw most frequently are the ones that are basically in the out-of-the-box reports. But I mean, it's just normal COIC work, so we do that on a daily basis, so we could aggregate in a different way. And if they have a business intelligence platform and they would like to use it for that, we can even do that. So we can work with extract, transform, and load layers and OLAP cubes. So we can go very far in terms of reporting if that's a requirement. But in most cases, this is sufficient. Yeah.
Let me ask a couple other questions while Dylan is either trying to get in, or maybe I'd like Dylan. I know you know the requirements deeper than I do. I just want to make sure this, as far as we know, will hit that requirement. So, question I have: how many calls can we park? Can we park 5, 10? Is that configurable? That I can only, I don't want to have 20 calls parked. That almost seems ridiculous. I couldn't manage that effectively, right? So.
At max, I hope you can hear me. Yes, at max we can park 50 calls, and parking duration, yes, and parking duration can be up to 30 minutes.
Okay.
What happens after 30 minutes?
Actually, that call will be. I have to check with my product manager. He was about to join this call, but I got this basic information from him that it would be 30 minutes. And 50 calls limit is actually configurable. If you have more PXML ports, then we can increase it. That limit can be increased.
Gotcha. Okay.
For your many questions for 30 minutes, I will revert back on chat with additional information.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to know that. Does it just terminate the call, or does it drop it back
Yes,
into
yes,
the queue?
yes.
Which would be the preferred place to put it, right? If
Yes,
somebody's
yes.
on hold. But if they're on hold 30 minutes, they probably have hung up already anyways. And what happens when they're on hold? Does it take call manager typical music on hold? What does it play messaging? Is what happens when I'm on hold? What does the user hear? Dead air? Is there something that
Actually, we can send back it to IVR, and at IVR we can play desired prompt as per your wish. Whatever IVR prompts you can provide us, we can play those prompts. So
So it
those can
says,
be on board.
yeah, so it's essentially under full CVP XML control. So you could even have a full IVR menu running there with additional information, or have a voice conversational IVR where you give the person information while the person is waiting. So you could basically have a full IVR conversation there. We could, or if you want to have integrate with Dialogflow, for example, with a conversational IVR, you could even do that, right? So there's full control as it does keep one VXML port busy.
it does take a VXML port,
Yeah.
right? So that's something to take into account, right? It's not using call manager hold function, it's using contact center, IVR, CVP function.
Correct. Yeah.
That brings up a good point. Exactly, what are all the pieces here that we need to configure and put together? Obviously, we have a gadget we need to configure and set up in Finesse. Obviously, now we have CVP Studio where these calls will queue. What else needs to be built out in order to offer this gadget?
2 servers.
Yeah, just the servers, yeah, to run the service. Exactly.
Are they Agenta servers? What type of servers? They're just.
I'm not sure about call parking. Usually we use Docker containers, but I'm not sure about call parking. But
Hassan, if I'm not wrong, it is a Windows server.
okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, a Windows server as well.
Okay.
What other questions, Dylan?
I'm sorry, there was a Windows server. What does the Windows server do?
It maintains the queued calls and displays the user interface for the Finesse gadget. So it just knows which agent is in which session and so on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's basically a web server, if you wish.
Yeah, okay. And there's something running on there that you need to configure, or you guys would do that?
We would do that. So what we would probably set up, if you want, is the whole setup, embedding the Finesse widget, configuring a simple CVP script, and with an announcement that you can provide 2-3 announcements, and then the server that then renders onto the Finesse widget, and controls and talks with CVP in the background also.
Okay. Okay. So you have a service that would do that, but is there? If we wanted to do it ourselves, are there instructions, documentation on how to do that?
Generally, we document all the products in a way that partners can configure everything on their own. I'm not sure, and you will find this. I can share my screen. Where is it? Call parking. Cannot find any. Ah, here, call parking. There we go. So, can you see it here?
It's coming up now. Yep.
And so we do provide installation guides for the whole setup. We would need to, I mean, this is the documentation that generally we document it in such a way as to, you should be able to install it on your own if you wish to do so. Right.
Gotcha.
And it might be, I mean, we have not updated it with the most recent versions of Cisco Contact Center, so it might be that one or the other scripts might be modified slightly. So the documentation might have one or the other errors, but we would update that if you face any issues. And ultimately, we will just update the documentation.
Okay.
So see here, Finesse, Gadget, how to configure that, how to set up the VXML application. So that's all documented.
Redundancy. This customer is highly redundant. They want everything redundant. Does this have a active passive model? Does it just if I had to have a two server and a load balancer in front of it? How do you offer the ability to do high availability or redundancy? Because this is their model for everything.
Hassan, can you comment on that one?
Yes, we do have a redundant deployment structure. Over here, we have provided to the one of our customer in HA mode. So we need for two separate server for the call parking gadget application, and we are also providing the database HA without load balancer.
Without the load balancer. So you can do both
Yes.
without load balancer?
Yes, exactly.
So natively you can handle the active passive approach and then fall back if need be, etc. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
I feel bad, Dylan, that you're unable to see everything, but
I'm recording the session. If you want, I can send you the link afterwards with the recorded session so you can view all the screens that we shared.
I think that will be
that'd be great. And I'll go to the website and check on the documentation as well. Obviously, the stuff I'm asking for is there. So
sure. Actually, I could share the screens with WebEx Teams, right? Well.
There's more than one way to skin a cat here, but
yeah.
Perfect. So
this is for a hospital? Is that correct, or what is the environment of the customer?
it is actually what's called safe harbor. So it's a crisis hotline.
Okay.
Suicide, need help. I've got these. So it's critical, and that's why they don't want to queue and put people sitting around. So that's why they want to be able to answer every call and then put them on hold and say, hang on, I got another call, and then determine, hey, who do I need to get to, or do I have to try and find another agent somewhere? And they've got limited number of agents, so there's those challenges, and that's why out of the box queuing doesn't work. They need this ability to quickly answer a call. So that's one of the metrics I think we have to report on: how long it took to answer the call, how long the call lasted, etc. Those metrics need to be reported.
Yeah. So
they are supposed to answer the calls within three rings. That's the first thing, and the main idea is to be able to triage each call coming in, because you don't know if the person's calling in for general information or maybe they have dire mental health issues that need to be taken care of immediately. And so, again, like John said, putting them into a queue and waiting until that agent finishes off their call, it could be like literally a matter of life and death, right?
So it's a very similar situation like we have for Lifeline Australia, which is the national crisis hotline in Australia, where we deployed a chat solution in addition to calls, so that help seekers can contact the contact center also via chat over multiple chat channels: WhatsApp, Viber, Telegram, SMS. And it basically integrates with the contact center as well, so they can actually provide support to help seekers through chat, and it's also integrated with the Cisco contact center there. So it's a similar situation in a way. This could be a possible extension if that's of any interest, like sending a confirmation email, SMS, for example, with helpful phone numbers or addresses where the help seeker might want to go to following the call. Or we could start a chat session in parallel to the call, for example, through SMS. but that's maybe for a later stage. I think the immediate requirement is just call parking.
Okay. Dylan, what I know you can't see anything, but any other questions? I mean, like I said, you know the specific requirements you just mentioned. Hey, I got to be able to answer in 3 rings. Once it's answered, they can park it. This gadget gives the ability to keep answering. So once it's parked, I immediately go back to a ready state so I can take another call, or you can set a timer on, how long I'm in a not ready state. Maybe clarify that piece of it. How does that, from a park call to being able to answer the next call? Is it immediate? Is it configurable? Maybe Junaid, I don't know if I said that right.
Uh, okay, can you please repeat your question?
Yeah, so I'm an agent, right? And a call's presented, and I answer it, and I park the call. What happens to my agent status? Do I immediately go ready so I can answer another call?
Yes, yes. Your status will automatically change into ready, and you can receive another call. You can receive.
Gotcha. So we'll be able to determine, Dylan. Now this is if it's ringing and we're queuing. That's all stuff you can configure, Dylan,
Yes,
on how the flow works. Do we even do we even queue at all, or do we directly present every call to an agent? Right. So
yeah. Actually, when agent parks a call, he's actually out of the call. Call will be on IVR. He will be out of the call, so he can receive another call.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have too many more questions, to be honest with you.
This is Mike. I'll jump in with a couple other just questions. Just in regards to I guess the server specs, do we have that? This is going to be put in a redundant environment. Do you have what's required? You mentioned you need some space on your Windows servers. Is that something you could share with us?
Yes, actually, I think the installation guide that Andres has shared with you, those specs are mentioned. So
Yeah.
we would need 2 vCPU core server.
So you need 4, right? You would need 2 of these systems if we're doing redundancy, right?
For HA, we would need 2 servers of. Yes.
Of each of these. You sent the specs
Yes.
previously, Andre.
Okay. And then the other big question they're going to have is supportability on this. They're very keen on making sure they have 24/7 support. Kind of curious, what is your typical support model look like?
Yes, actually, we do provide support 24/7, gold support, and our agents, our support team is available 24/7. So no problem with that. We provide gold SLA, and you can open a ticket. We will have a support ticket portal, so you can create a ticket there, or can provide you an emergency call number, a contact number. If you have some emergency you want, and you can contact on that number. So there are multiple options. So
Okay.
for what we will provide you a portal. You can create a ticket there, and our support team will be available 24/7.
Okay. And then do you have like a description or some, I guess,
An SLA, I think you're asking for, Mike. What's the SLA? This level of severity within so many minutes, hours, etc.
Yes, and yes, you have shared a screen. Can you please open SLA sheet?
Yeah, I'm doing that. So we can share the document with you, which basically describes the maintenance services and the maintenance portal that we have, that Junaid just described, where you can open tickets with SLA, and it describes the support levels and response times. So gold support means you are guaranteed to have an engineer on system within 1 hour, 24/7.
okay. Is that something you could share with us?
Yep, sure.
That would be very helpful.
Yep.
And then I just want to clarify one thing that was mentioned before about you could set up different teams. How are those teams administered, is that you have another kind of portal to add the PCCE agents to the teams, or how do you manage putting new members on and off?
Hassan, can you take that?
Hassan, can you please respond?
Sorry, I didn't get your question basically.
So how we create teams? As
So we are creating team on ICM, configuration manager.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it can be done through SPOG? Go ahead, Dylan.
sorry, yeah, I was just going to say that would be done on our side. It's just a normal
Exactly.
functionality of assigning agents teams. So in this particular case, the teams
Exactly,
that we're
exactly.
assigning have, yeah.
But then how does the supervisor add people to a team? Hey, I'm seeing like 6 calls in hold here. And does the supervisor have a different view of many teams? Is there that capability? Say, hey, I got to add more agents to this group here, this team. And can that be done?
Well, answering from my perspective, it should be able to, and the supervisors should be able to even have the gadget installed themselves, so they'll be able to visualize. I'm seeing it from my side. I imagine they would be able to see all the calls, and it's just a matter of them logging into the web portal and managing the agents into that team if necessary. I will say, though, from the perspective of the build we're doing for the crisis center, they're all in the same team anyway. So there shouldn't be any need in this case to be moving agents in and out unless there's some turnover of some sort.
Gotcha. We're really looking at one team. If there were multiple teams.
We're looking at one group that handles the calls under one team. And basically, in this case, they get 3 different types of calls that come in. It's all the same group that answer those 3 types of calls. So,
Okay. Can I be in multiple teams? If I were to have multiple teams, can an agent be a participant in multiple?
no, you can only be in one team. That's just general.
Okay. I was just thinking, right? If I have different skill groups, right? If I do skills-based routing, I can have multiple skills in this. I'm a 1 on this and a 7 on this. I'm going to take all these, but eventually, if there's a need, because I'm a 7, I could start to take calls for a different skill, shall we say? So that's why I was asking, could there be multiple teams? And you said there's 3 different types of calls, albeit in this use case, there's only one team. Let's say they had 3 teams, they grew such that they needed it. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I think in that particular case, they would have to be moved.
Okay. What other questions do folks have? I think in general, go ahead, Dylan.
No, I'm just trying to think. I mean, really, the reporting one is key, and then of course we've gone over the actual gadget, the ability for other agents to see the queue to be able to answer it. Right? I didn't want it to be single agent, and they can only look at the calls, so that is key. The functionality seems to be there, and then with reporting, I'll look at those documents. Other than that, looks good to me. I don't think I have any other questions.
And so it's just a gadget that sits on top of or inside of Finesse, right? So it's just, again, my desktop. I've got my parking solution here. So it seems to, at a high level, it seems to meet our basic requirements. We'll have to dig into the reporting and see what that looks like a little deeper. As far as if we were to take it to the next step, it would likely be present to the customer. And Andreas, in full transparency, we're evaluating a couple options on this. Just because we need to present to them, here's what the potential options are for you. But this looks like it's meeting the objective. as far as a turnaround time on your end, this seems to be out of the box, right? Fairly boilerplate, doesn't require custom development. Only if we want to do custom reporting would there be something above and beyond. You've given us pricing for single server build out, right? So if you need redundancy, you might want to think about, because I know they'll ask for it, what would it take? And then we're probably going to need to, we would probably need to put it in a lab as well. So there may be a lab instance and then this instance, but those are things that you can start thinking about. If we move down that path, you'll be looking for that information.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
on the services side, right, you know, the day two support, you gave us SLAs.